Greetings from planet Seattle. This is the Electric Elohim's page, and I'm coming to you live. It's been a couple months, you guys, but today you've probably read the title. It's about aliens and Nephilim, and it's about fallen angels, and they're all correlated. And this is an issue that I really have had to pray about, and the Lord has given me dreams and insight. And after listening to the likes of Bill Cooper, Steve Quayle, Chuck Missler, Alex Jones, L.A. Missoula, I've known about a little longer than probably L.A. Missoula has. He's a youngin' in this particular field of about 5 years. But the Lord has been dealing with me very much so over, the last couple years, about 6.5 years, about fallen angels, the Nephilim they created, and the alien race that came from those two. And I had a dream, actually 2 dreams. And the first dream I'm going to share with you is the recent one, and then there was one that came a couple months before that. This one is from February 20th, 2011. And I'm going to get to that at the end if this video isn't on and I'm not rambling on and on about absolutely nothing. I'm going to read to you the book of Genesis. And you may wonder a couple things. We have, as you know, the word and the information of the word reveals secrets. And I believe after hearing from the current investigators and what you may call conspiracy theorists, but I call them truth sayers and seekers, Bill Cooper, Steve Quayle, Chuck Missler, Alex Jones, L.A. Missoula. We also have the patriarchs of old and the account from the word of the Lord from Enoch, Abraham, King David, Solomon. We have ancient accounts of their interactions in the word, including Noah, about the Nephilim and about the fallen angels. So in the Jewish culture, we believe that there are books that are missing from the Old Testament. There are books that weren't added. One of the books was Enoch. Another one of the books was the book of Noah. I've read the book of Noah. I've read the book of Adam and Eve. And these books are very poignant. Now, people claim, well, they weren't added into the word because it was God's will. No. They were not added by the Catholic Church because they spoke of mysteries and things that they were afraid would take away from their power. So they manipulated the word of the Lord, and they put into the Bible the passages that they wanted, because for a long time, a lot of people, the Bible was only able to be read in a particular language by the Catholics. Where I'm going with this is I believe that we are in the days of Noah. And so when Yeshua talked about like the days of Noah, it is a little bit more than what we understand. Noah wasn't just dealing with the havoc of the corruption of mankind. He was dealing with the Nephilim, and he was dealing with the offspring of Lucifer and the 13 fallen angel and the 200 other fallen angels that came and fornicated with man, and later with animals and all other kinds of sea creatures, but we'll get to that in a minute. So if you get on YouTube, there is an account from the Jewish history of Abraham and how Abraham came into the Lord and how he called him up out of Tehran, out of his father's home. And in this, it's called the Apocalypse of Abraham. And in the Apocalypse of Abraham, Abraham sees the fallen angels. They have 6 wings. He also was shown into our time, and he saw 12 signs that would beacon the end time of our time. He saw the earthquakes, he saw the famine, he saw the wars, and this is right before the ushering in of Yeshua HaMashiach. Now, I'm going to read to you Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 8, and this is what it says. When the human population began to grow rapidly on the earth, the sons of God saw beautiful women of the human race, and took any they wanted as their wives. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not put up with humans for such a long time, for they are only mortal flesh. In the future they will live no more than 120 years. In those days, and even after the flood, lived giants on the earth. For whenever the sons of God had intercourse with human women, they gave birth to children who became the heroes mentioned in legends of old. Now the Lord observed the extent of the people's wickedness, and he saw that their thoughts were constantly wicked and totally evil. So the Lord was sorry he had ever made them. It broke his heart, and the Lord said, I will completely wipe out the human race that I have created, yes, and I will destroy all the animals and birds too. I am sorry I ever made them. But Noah found favor with the Lord. Now, you wonder why it was just Noah and his family, because the Nephilim were breeding with animals, they were breeding with human women, and they were interbreeding amongst themselves. So what you were dealing with was, well, okay, you were dealing with a grotesque Hollywood movie. You were just dealing with things that is incomparable to us, because God has given us a rest. And after David killed the last 5 Nephilim, which was Goliath and his 4 brothers, Satan stood up, because that was the last of Satan's seed on the earth. Now understand that, on the earth. It does not mean they weren't outside of here. So your question would be, now that we get to all of this other goody stuff, how is it that if God knew that Satan would repeat the same sin again, why would he allow the Nephilim to be here before and after the flood? Well, okay, let me explain. God allows free will of choice. He can subdue their evil, and that is what he has done. And like I said, he's given us rest. So this is what I've prayed about and what my understanding is. When the Lord told Noah to build the ark, Lucifer knew. He instructed his offspring to build a vessel. Now, this seems crazy, but think about it. God would have subdued Lucifer and the other angels, and their other children that were not boarded onto these vessels were destroyed and became disembodied spirits. And those are the spirits that torment man with all sorts of sin. Depression, murder, rage, all kinds of sick obsessions, you name it. That's what these spirits do. And if you read in the book of Enoch, it is talked about, and this was the discussion that the Lord had with Enoch, and what the Enoch was supposed to say to the fallen angels. And at this particular time, the fallen angels were in the outermost place, which is a place that Yeshua talked about. When spirits are cast out, they walk into the outer places, and they roam and roam and roam when the house of the person is clean. And that means our spiritual house. That means our body. So in the discussion with Enoch, the Lord had made it very clear that the angels were meant for the Lord and not for man, and that they intermingled their spirit with flesh. And it had grieved him very much that he had made man. So what happened was, spaceships, Nephilim, There are 30 kinds of them, and Chuck Missler used to work for NASA. He ran a couple companies for NASA, so he's very accredited. Steve Quayle, Bill Cooper have also covered this, even Alex Jones. With all his hype, Alex Jones is a very intelligent man, and a lot of his sources are actually very credible. If you will take the time and check it out and not assume that the man is crazy, he really is a really neat person. So, where was I at? These spaceships, thank you, Lord. These spaceships were built, and only so many of them went. And what it is believed is that they took with them human women, and that's where they dwell, and that's where the aliens come from. And this seems weird. I never believed in aliens. I never believed in spaceships, and I didn't really start believing it until I started having these dreams. And I'm black, and it's so funny because race really has nothing to do with it, but white people seem to really be into the whole conspiracy thing and the whole alien and all that thing, and I was never. But after listening to Chuck Missler, after praying, after having it confirmed, and all of a sudden I started having dreams, and I started meeting people that were confirming what Chuck Missler said, and they didn't even know who this man was. You know, this is not a Zechariah Zetchin thing. This is not what this is. This is what the Word of God says. And there are books that are missing from the Bible that are not in the Bible. And if I believe that I said earlier that there is the book of Noah, the book of Adam and Eve, these particular books and the apocalypse of Abraham were not included. And we believe, again, the Messianic Jews and the Christians believe that the Vatican has these books, and they're safely hidden, and these books reveal about the things that come. And the Vatican has even let out that they believe that there is aliens and space life. So, in the Pope Benedict just said this a couple years ago, and again, do your research. I believe that this is something that the Lord wants us to understand about the days of Noah and what we're about to deal with. NASA knows that there are things up there, and NASA is not telling us. And again, this seems like this is just so far-fetched, and it just is so crazy. It could make even me laugh if I didn't believe in this. So here are some of the, some of the ancient civilizations, and I'm going to talk about them and elaborate on them really quick. And I'm also going to go back, and I'm also going to elaborate on the book of Enoch, because in the book of Enoch, we get an idea through the discussion, as I was saying earlier before I lost my train of thought, about what Enoch dealt with when he was dealing with the fallen angels. He was dealing with them than the other ones, but they were the main ones that caused the other ones to sin. And if you pay attention to the stuff in Ica down there, South America down there, it's either Ica, Peru, Chile, I get them mixed up. They had released and opened up these 13 skulls. The 13 skulls are the 13 fallen angels, and it goes into the elite, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. But this is what their sins were, and this is what we have to understand. Man had a virgin mind. Our minds were not. God made us to be very loving, very free-spirited, very peaceful, very docile creatures to honor and to worship Him. And when we ate of the fruit, all of that got mixed up. And so this was some of the things in the book of Enoch. And even there's pages missing from the book of Enoch, because the book of Enoch is a lot longer than what the manuscript that we have of the book of Enoch that we read and know as the book of Enoch. There is more pages that were taken away from that need to be added. So the book of Enoch, this is some of the sins of the fallen angels, and this is why God punished them and put them in hell, because of the state of man and what they made God do. And they were also doing things like gene splicing. Gene splicing is nothing new. It's just got, let's put it up, a facelift. It's the same thing. I mean, but at that time, because of the genes of the fallen angels and their children, there have been bones found, and I'm going to get to that in a minute too. But I want to get back to the book of Enoch. And they were they were sleeping with dinosaurs. They were sleeping with a lot of reptiles. They knew what they were doing when they were mixing with reptiles. They were mixing with sea animals. They were mixing with cats, cows, horses, donkeys, anything to defile God's creation, and that is why God sentenced them to hell. This is what was in the book of Enoch. This is some of the stuff this is many of their sins. Enoch, okay, sorceries, star reading, charms, magic spells, witchcraft, using roots and barks and flowers to make witchcraft spells, drugs, teaching them how to create hard drugs, using drugs for seduction, for evil, for killing, for putting people under your power, all kinds of hard just drugs of any sort, not just for recreational drug use, but any kind of pharmaceutical drugs, things that they knew would transform the spirit and the mind of man and woman. To make strong liquor, like our boozes, like you have the bourbons, you have the rice liquors, the wheat liquors, hard liquors like vodka made out of potatoes. Not saying that it created vodka, it probably didn't have that name, but very strong drink, and the Bible talks about strong drink, which is far different than wine. I mean, wine was very prevalent at that time, but when they discovered that they could do things with grains to make certain kinds of alcohol and to distill alcohol, they were taught these things. They taught the women how to use their bodies and to fornicate with their bodies and to make certain kinds of earrings and necklaces to lure men, cosmetics such as makeup, like eyeshadow, lipstick, lip gloss, blush, rouge, to make their hair up, to dress provocatively. They taught men how to make weapons of violence and how to wage war. Corrupted sex, taught sex with animals, gene splicing. Okay. So now we get to why is all of this important to the church? Because the same thing is happening right now. We've got all the cloning. We've got all the types of splicing with different animals. We've got the RIFD chip, which I'm going to get to in a minute. Here are some of the things that God wants you to understand. This is what it means as in the days of Noah. This is what Yeshua, the Christ, was talking about as in the days of Noah. And this is something that people have to really understand. In ancient civilizations in the earth, and this is, again, you have the pyramids, you have all the false religions, but if you look at certain cultures and you go around the world, they all talk about Nephilim, or they talk about starcraft and spaceship. And I believe that when Lucifer and the fallen angels were snatched up and were chained at various points in the earth, some of them, Lucifer, Beelzebub, and Apollyon, ended up in hell. You have the two fallen angels chained at Euphrates. God showed me them with the chain around their ankle, and their eyes blaze like fire. They're angry. There's different points in the earth where they're at. They're all not in hell. The fallen angels who were of lesser power, they are in hell, and all power is subdued until their release. Upon being released in these times, they will gain full power and have full access. They will be able to do the same things they did because they are under God's permissive will. They are under God's authority, and they rely on God to allow them to do what they do. So some of the ancient civilizations, we have the Egyptians. You see in their tombs, you see in their writings, they talk about the star people. They talk about the Nephilim. They talk about, you see pictures of them being tiny people talking to these huge giant creatures. And a lot of their knowledge came from the Nephilim or star people. And they would have been Nephilim coming in spaceship, or what you think is star people. You have the Sumerians that talk about the star people and where they got their education from. And you see in the Sumerian texts and writings that they had no knowledge of this. You see the Mayans, them as well. They talk about the star people. They talk about the statues and the statues that they carve. And people say, oh, well, that's just art. They're just making faces. You know what? Language and symbols is the same in any culture, whether you speak or not. If you use sign language, it's a language. If you take a paintbrush or a pencil and sketch on a wall, and you see a cow, you see a man, you see a crop. It's telling you the man was a farmer. He used the cow for tilling, and the crop that you see he drew is the crop that it could be wheat, it could be corn. So language is across the board, spoken, foreign, it doesn't matter to God. And so these people weren't just making fun arts. They were literally depicting the faces of these creatures, these Nephilim, that were assisting them. And I furthermore believe people don't really understand what happened to the Mayans. I firmly believe that they were taken. If you read Steve Quayle's book, he talks about Chile. He wrote a 400-page book about Chile, Peru, and the giants. And it is well documented in many countries about the giants. You have the Aztecs. You have southern India. When they had the tsunami in 2005, bones were uncovered and murals on walls and on rocks and scrolls depicting and talking about the Nephilim or the star people. And again, you can do this research. You can get on YouTube. You can get online. You can look at this. You can use Steve Quayle as a reference. There's so much I'm covering, you guys. It's sometimes so hard. I gotta stop and I gotta think. Let's see. So I do believe in my heart that is their purpose. They came to give knowledge. And how this all fits in, and I'm getting to where this all fits in and why is this so important to the church. Okay, this is why it's important to the church. We talk about the mark, and there is the RIFD chip that has been created, but there is evidence, and again, there are people who have said that they have been abducted by aliens, and people think that they're crazy. But L.A. Missoula spoke to a doctor. And I want to make sure I get all my points in before I jump and I skip to anything else. Okay. L.A. Missoula. L.A. Missoula spoke to a doctor. His name is Dr. William Lear. Dr. William Lear is in the forefront of forensic science when it comes to aliens and UFOs. Now, how this happened, if you listen to L.A. Missoula, the doctor did not believe when the people were coming to him, and this guy came to him and said, I was abducted. And he just thought this man was crazy. And so reluctantly, as a skeptic, because he didn't, Dr. Lear did not believe in, creatures, space creatures. So he did some x-rays and he found something inside. Now, listen to me. This is where the mark of the beast, I believe it comes in. And this is where I believe it is connected to, end times. And why would anyone want to take a mark? Christians say 1,000,000 times, even some Messianic Hebrews, I would never take that because I know what the Bible says. But do you even understand what this chip is going to do when they come? This is what it's going to do. It is going to alter the DNA. Now, Dr. William Lear did x-rays on this gentleman, and he saw this, what looked like this, it looked like a chip, a good-sized chip, cut into threes. And he went in and he did the x-ray, went in, took it out, and he tried, it was covered in a mucous membrane. He tried to cut it. Now keep in mind, this man, his name's Dr. William Lear, last name spelled L-I-E-R. He has done this surgery on 60 patients, alien abductions. I was skeptical, okay? And L.A. Missoula, this, get on YouTube. You can find the documentation on Google online. You can find the story from L.A. Missoula, and you type in L.A. Missoula, L-A-M-A-N-Z-U-L-L, Missoula, and he tried to cut it. The doctor tried to cut the mucous membrane, and he couldn't cut it with a scalpel, you guys. So eventually he was able to get the mucous membrane out from around the microchip, and he put it in a petri dish with human blood. And it was all separated, and he had to pull it out in parts. And when he's pulling it out of these people, and particularly this first patient, it came out in 3 parts in a mucous membrane. And I needed to kind of note that to you. So he put it in a petri dish with blood, and basically what he discovered 60 patients later, from this first patient, which would make him the first, and then the other 59 patients after him, was that it corrects your DNA, which will help you to live longer. In the Word of God, it says in the book of Revelations that in those days man will seek death but not find it. And it says that when you take the mark, you instantly are thrown into hell, because you will become just like the Nephilim. You will become immortal, meaning you will live forever. If you're blind, it'll correct your DNA. If you have diabetes, hypertension, if you have birth defects, anything is wrong with you, this chip is going to offer the answer. This is where in the Bible, when it says that the elite were deceived, because they'll come and say, well, we created all mankind. We created the human race. And see, you got people in the church, like L.A. Missoula said, that are just playing church. They don't want to hear any of this. But this is why the devil is able to get away with what he's been, because we're asleep at the helm. So when these things come in, and again, I have had a dream, and my dream about these things, and I saw all the hybrids, I saw all kinds of weird stuff, and I'm gonna tell you, I've never, and after hearing other children of God's testimony and hearing their testimonies about these dreams, and God gives warning to his children first. People who don't believe in aliens and don't think about this stuff are having dream after dream after dream after dream. You can get online and you can get on YouTube and type in alien dreams end times, or alien dreams visions from God, alien dreams UFO deception. There's not any deception going on here, because this is the real deal. Some of the other stuff that God wanted me to also cover, I was talking about earlier, other civilizations, and how this is playing a part, and how they'll come with the knowledge, how they'll come with the chip. And you have this chip, you'll have to buy, and you'll only be able to buy and sell, but it has to be something that will even make Christians give up their Christian faith and do this. And these aliens are going to really make people think that they really are God. But what they are, if you read the word, and because you have books missing from the Bible, is they are Nephilim. They are the offspring of the seed of fallen angels. So you have other civilizations, pyramids. If you notice, and people again, they act slow, they don't want to acknowledge this. You know, what are the famous pyramids in the world? The Egyptian pyramids in Egypt. Giza. If you look at places like China about 8 years ago found remnants of pyramids, and they found blonde-haired, blue-eyed skeletons there. They did not want the white man coming in and looking at it, so they are destroying them. But these are the symbolism of the Nephilim, and they left these, and they're in northern China, close to the border of Mongolia. So again, they were in China, and I believe a lot of the information that Chinese got were from these Nephilim, because the whole purpose they were to do was to destroy man by different religions and different beliefs, and to bring division in the world. So when they were, the reason why they moved from the Middle East, and the reason why after the flood, and they were on the earth after the flood, is because they were fleeing, because they were being killed by David and his mighty men. And they fled from Canaanite in the land of Canaan and all surrounding areas. And when they left, they ended up in India. They ended up in Scandinavia. They ended up in that's where you get the Vikings from. And I'm going to get to that. It is said that the Vikings were the first ones here, which I believe that is very true. And again, if I can remember it, because there's so much information I'm covering, I will just more or less definitely get back to you on that one in a minute here. But you have South America pyramids. Again, Egypt, Ireland, Scotland, all these places, India, pyramids. Now, and a lot of these cultures, other than maybe the Chinese people, they talk about spaceships. They talk about the star people. Now, wait a minute. You got all these people spread all over the earth in different continents with no type of communication, but by foot or by boat or by some kind of animal or whatever, okay? What would each person from China, South America, Ireland, Scotland, Egypt know anything about pyramids in each other's culture? That is because there is Nephilim. That is because there are fallen angels. That is because there's a such thing as spaceships. And I believe that we are about to encounter a time, because there has been a lot of activity going on, and a lot of solar activity going on the sun. There's been a lot of activity that if you have large telescopes, very intelligent scientific people, and even layman scientists who study the stars and do astronomy, they know that there's things up there, and they see stuff. If you have high-powered microscope, and you'll go on the NASA website, you'll see it, you'll follow it, and then NASA will go, and then they'll erase it. And then the dream that I'm going to share with you, and probably not in this particular video, but in my next video, I talk about NASA, and I talk about the United States government, and I think maybe I'm going to actually share both videos. But again, you also have bones that have been discovered. You've had bones that have been discovered in South Africa, North Africa. You've had bones that have been discovered in Ireland, Scotland. You've had the huge bones that were uncovered in India. You've even had bones found in China, but China, they're funny. They're not going to tell you that. You've had bones found in Arizona, Colorado, Ohio, and I'm going to get back to Colorado. Let's see, Ohio, Pennsylvania, California, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska. In Colorado, if you look, a lot of the canyons in Colorado have Egyptian names. They have Egyptian names. Now, okay, why would they have Egyptian names if the Grand Canyon is thousands of years old? You have in Arizona where they had the red-haired, double-teeth Nephilim, and the bones, and the natives on the in the area, the native people, Native Americans dealt with them because they were cannibals, and they had double teeth, and they had the ability. They made lures and decoys for hunting. They had a knowledge of hunting. And it is said that the Vikings were the first ones over here. And I believe that those red-headed creatures that they found in Arizona, Colorado, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and even in parts of the colonies, there were bones found. There were Celtic symbols and caves found. Again, Nephilim. And they fled and they built boats and they fled. So they had the ability to do long distance range travel. They were very barbaric, very, very violent. Wild Bill Buffalo Cody wrote a book, and one of the princesses from one of the tribes came out with a femur that was larger than a cow bone and was talking about these people, and the Native Americans dealt with them. Okay, most people think that like the Native Americans, like when you see in the Indian movies the racist stuff, hi, and they put up their hand and they're saying hi. No, they weren't saying hi when you put the 5 fingers up. Native Americans wanted to see your hand, because every Native American person that I've talked to, even in my family, they talk about the 6-fingered, 6-toed creatures, the Nephilim. And they would have you put your hand up, and because they were savages, and they were tricksters, and they would loot the villages, they would rape the women, they would take the women, they would do cannibalism, they would just do all kinds of things to the Native American population, until the Native American population got smart and killed them all. So they would have them put up their hand as a symbol to count the fingers on their hands. 6 fingers, 6 toes. And they talked about the nature of these people. And we know where redheads come from. We know redheads come from from Ireland, mostly Northern Ireland, Scotland, Scandinavia, those cold countries. And that is what it is believed where they come from. Now, the thing about this mark is, I believe that the United States government has very much knowledge about it. You have other cultures, and I'm going to talk about the crop circles. You have other cultures that have released information about UFO and aliens, okay? You have Belgium, you have France, you have Germany, you have Mexico, you have Switzerland, you have Sweden, you have the UK, and you also have Australia, and New Zealand has had a lot of problems. You may wonder things about, okay, I was going to talk about the crop circles. And I was going to talk about how is it that they would be involved in the things to come and the alien deception and all this. Not alien deception, it's just truth. Well, because the elite, a lot of us seers and dreamers of the children of God have had dreams about the elite and about these aliens, these Nephilim coming for the elite. When you had the thing a couple years ago with the Mayan calendar and the 13 skulls, okay, and they went down, I believe it was into Peru, Chile. I always get them mixed up. Anyways, they both had something to do with the Nephilim. They both had them in their culture. The 13 skulls, and they were doing the praying, and I think it was the Mayan, it was the Mayan elders. What they were doing, and what you don't understand, the 13 skulls are the 13 fallen angels. Enoch was talking to the original 13 angels who made the other ones fall too, and those 13 skulls are the 13 fallen angels, and a porthole is being opened. The portholes that are being opened are for communication with them. And the elite, or the Illuminati, and I've heard Arizona Wilder, Mary Ann, she was on Harry Mancow, and on Harry Mancow, Mary Ann was talking about that they have seers that connect into portholes, and they talk to the reptilian, and they talk to these demons, and the reason why these Nephilim and these space creatures are able to know when to come back is because through these seers, just like God uses us as seers and uses us as prophets, Lucifer has his own. He is able to communicate through these seers to them. And they're going to know exactly when to come back because the elite are in contact with them. the crop circles. And this seems crazy, but if you think about it, because Arizona Wilder says that these creatures want to get out of this porthole, and they want to get and I have Christian friends who are seers on YouTube who have seen these portholes, who have been in these portholes, and they've seen these demons in these demonic Nephilim, and they've seen the grotesque things that they've done, and they've seen it. It's sick. And so the communication is between the seer and the elite and hell. And Lucifer appears, and he's able, people think he's able to physically come if called and summoned. That is why he needs followers, and that is why he needs people. Because if he's unable, if he can't summon them by himself, he's limited in what he can do. And he is only limited by the power that you allow him to have. And that is why he needs humans. That is why they need warm bodies, and that is why they need flesh. Because God uses us, and he uses us in the spiritual realm for supernatural purposes here on earth. That is what this is for. So as much as this seems kind of crazy and kind of weird, it's all biblical, it's all scriptural, and it's coming to pass, and they're going to come. And you got people, especially white people, who are just going to, these things are going to come, and they're like, we're the saviors of the world. You know, we've got natural energy sources. We've got things that'll help DNA and correct DNA problems. And, you know, we love children. No, what I saw in the dream, I'm going to share with you guys. When I post it, it's going to freak you out. I mean, just how stupid and ditzy are people. This is not E.T. These things are dangerous, and they are into ritual sacrifice. They're into cannibalism, and they're slicing and killing humans for ritual purposes, and we're an abundant food source for them. And when they were here roaming the earth, we became an abundant food source for them. So they're very much into eating flesh, very much into the cannibal thing. And you'll see this stuff, and they'll just, you know, people think spaceships and think this stuff is crazy. So on to the crop circles. The crop circles they seem like cute little messages, but what they are is and this is what my understanding is from people like Steve Quayle, Bill Cooper, and Alex Jones, and Chuck Missler. These crop circles are messages, and they tell you the coordinates of the 13 angels, which goes back to the 13 skulls and the Mayan elders praying over the 13 skulls and the opening of portholes. The messages in these crop circles are for the elite, and for those that the Nephilim come into contact, or aliens, but they're Nephilim. I don't care. They're whatever. They're not ET. And so I believe that what's contained in these crop circles are not necessarily a message directly for man, but for the elite. Coordinates, spoken word, information, all sorts of information, time frames in which they're coming back, ordinance of where places they're going to land, and giving information about how to open up these portholes and speak to these fallen angels, because they're chained and bound in various parts of the earth. And what people don't understand, okay, the book of Revelations, not only does it talk about, and they will try to seek death and not find it. Can you imagine a brick falling on you and you just can't die because you got this chip in you? Can you imagine being 65 and your genes are corrected and you're living like a 25-year-old, everything in you's working like a 25-year-old, you're perfectly healthy and nothing is wrong with you? This is what this is talking about. You need to understand how this is going to go. I have friends in the YouTube community who have had serious dreams about these fallen angels, and they will be released. I saw the ones that are chained at the river of Euphrates. God showed them to me in a vision, and it's very dark, and they sit down on a stoop down there, and their eyes glow red with fire and anger, and they've got a big chain around their ankle, and all they can do is sit. God, and again, you wonder, Lucifer was bound. When all of this started popping off in the beginning, in the book of Genesis, he was taken, he was bound into hell. His powers were limited and subdued. They can't do the time travel and all that business not without human contact. And again, that's where the seers come in at. This seems far-fetched, this all seems crazy, but if you pray about it, seek the Lord. I don't argue with people. All this stuff, I've had like I said, 6.5 years of just intense study, paying attention, praying the word, and God bringing signs and bringing wonders. But the Antichrist, the beast, and the false prophet, how are they going to be able to bring false signs and lying wonders if they have no power? How is Lucifer and these fallen angels that are coming and these Nephilim creatures, how are they supposed to do signs and false signs and lying wonders if they have no power? When they are released from their dungeon, their powers are fully restored. The fallen angels' powers are fully restored. God is going to give Lucifer dominion over this earth. He's going to be able to make it rain, lighten. He's going to be able to do fires. He's going to be able to, they can read your mind. They can read minds. They have telepathy powers. They can see through things, okay? They can hear conversations and not be there. They can show up and be invisible. These are the kinds of things that they can do, and God is going to put all, it's under his permissive will. It's under completely, they're surviving because of him. And their fury is long and harsh and terrible and dark. And the things that are coming up out of the pit, you are never going to believe. Lucifer has his body. Lucifer's not dead. He's just bound in hell. He can be a roaming spirit on the earth, but he can't usher himself before God like he used to in the book of Job, because God limited all of that after Job. There were just things that you get that God wasn't allowing him to do. So he's limited in his power. But when God says, "Come out, Lucifer," the doors of hell and the strange noises that have been coming from the center of the earth in places like up in Vancouver, you had places over in Virginia, places in Tennessee, you had places in the Ukraine, I think I already said that one time before, Russia, you have the UK, you have New Zealand, you have some places in Australia, you have various places around the earth that are hearing this boom, 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 rattle, boom, up from under the earth. That is the doors of hell. And when people have had near-death experiences or have died and have came back from these near-death experiences, or when Yeshua shows people hell in the realms of hell, there are these funnels that are all over the earth, and when people die, they drop into one of those, or they drop into hell in one of the other various portholes that don't look like funnels that are around the earth. And that is what you're hearing. You're hearing the sounds of the doors of hell getting ready to fly open, and Lucifer's going to walk right out. Apollyon's going to walk right out. Beelzebub's going to walk right out. All the fallen angels is going to walk right out. That's what I mean. The church needs to wake the heck up, because this is not no joke no more. You're hearing these boom sounds from inside of the earth, and they were having these boom sounds here in South Seattle, over in West Seattle. They were hearing this boom, 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 and it was the doors of hell rattling. And they knew it wasn't seismic activity, it wasn't an earthquake. The scientists and the seismologists, the scientists that do the earthquake they pay attention to the earthquakes and they monitor the earthquakes. They said it wasn't an earthquake. This was something they have never heard. They didn't know. They thought it was a natural gas thing. They thought it was thunder and lightning, but the noise was just completely, it was a continuous noise. So, you know, again, there are believers that are having hundreds of dreams, and I'm not exaggerating. You can get on Facebook and type in end time dreams, Nephilims, and dream after dream after dream after dream. And this is going to the believer and the non-believer. They're having dreams of spaceships and aliens coming out of the water, coming out of the sky. And these dreams are increasing. And people are saying that they force people to take the chip. And they start out real friendly, but when your folks don't see your kids no more, and they start, you start seeing them just cutting down and killing, and they have a violent tendency, and they're very violent. And see, this is stuff that, again, I'm going to share. The United States government is very much aware of this, and even the United States government is not going to be able to handle them. And as far as the elite is concerned, they're only using the elite is because they've established a relationship. The elite have a lot of influence. They run banks. They run all kinds of natural resources. So this communication between the elite and Lucifers, because they're Luciferians, and these Nephilims, if you really think, this puts in that little gray area of how is this happening? What is going on? And when is this going to happen? And this is serious, guys. I've been on this long enough to where the time is drawing near. Again, I'm in the music industry, so what I'm seeing in the music industry is people selling their souls because they're being promised things, and these elite know that when what these beings are carrying, and they're carrying this chip that will offer them vitality, and so many people are going to take it. But if you're a child of God, you must endure, because they're going to tell you all kinds of things. They're going to try to scare you. They're going to try to do, and you're our own government. And though we don't see it now, this is what it means as in the days of Noah. And God has allowed them to keep back until time. And the communication between Lucifer and these Nephilim, that I believe they created a spaceship, and I believe they took off, and I believe Lucifer told them what to do, and he created his own ark, and he took some of the people with him, and he took off, and that is what they've been doing. And they've been waiting for the appointed hour to return. And the communication with the crop circles, the communication with the demonic seers of the Illuminati and Satan, because in these testimonies you're hearing from like Mary Ann and from Arizona Wilder, who escaped, they don't know each other, and all of their testimonies are the same. Doc Marquis was one of them. His testimony. You have what's his name? John Todd. All these people and all their testimonies, and they don't know each other, and they're from different time frames, talk the same talk about these Nephilim, these demons, portholes, and demonic seers. And these seers are the connection. And when Lucifer is communicating with them, they're telling Lucifer things through these seers, through these porthole, through these Nephilim, and they're meeting with them in person. These people, these spaceships, they're coming to and from. I believe rituals where these 13 angels are connected, or 3 of them are in hell and the rest are bound up elsewhere at different points of the earth. I believe that communication through rituals like at Ica with the Mayan elders, and the opening of portholes and the communicating with them. Opening up these portholes is bringing out demons out of the earth, and that's what they're doing. You see, it seems all sweet and innocent, but that is what's going on. So you hear the shaking, you hear the rumbling, and you hear this quite often. So again, I don't argue with people. Again, I didn't believe in any of this stuff, but I believe that this is really something that really has to be said. And I believe that the children of the Most High need to wake up, because this is what Noah was dealing with, okay? He was dealing with it much worse. This is what Enoch was dealing with. And David had the residual results after the flood, and I believe they returned back here after the flood. I do really believe the 13 angels were bound and the 200 were bound. Now it says during the battle, and this is one more thing, that a third of the angels from heaven were cast down. Now, okay, some scholars say that was just the 200 that came down on Mount Hermon when they were given the word and teaching man about the sovereignty of the Lord and the laws and the commandments of the Lord. And that's why the angels were having contact with them, and that's where the corruption happened. So, That is what I believe. Again, for anyone else, it varies from scholar to scholar to theologian through conspiracy theorists. But again, I go back to the patriarchs in the Bible and their firsthand account of, again, with David, Solomon. It said that Solomon had a ring to control the Nephilim. You have the Tower of Babel, and you have stones that were discovered, large, huge mammoth stones that could only be carried by Nephilim. I mean, these creatures got up to 37 feet tall, and they were big, and they were fierce, and they were strong. I believe that Greek mythology, I believe Roman mythology, and I furthermore believe Norwegian mythology all centers around the Nephilim. Think about it. Mount Hermon, Mount Hermon in Greek mythology, Zeus, Lucifer, and then you had all the other various gods on the mountain, and they were disguising themselves, and Lucifer or Zeus would disguise himself in gold and seduce the women, and you have Athena, and you have all of these different gods, and what it is all of these Greek mythology and the Nephilim, and how I read they were called the heroes and the renowned of old. Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Norwegian mythology with like Loki and Odin, all of it is real. And if you go back, you would be surprised because there's always a message. Lucifer has a message, God has a message, but God's message is light, and it always prevails over Lucifer. I do believe, let's see, sorry about that, guys. Let's see. I do believe I am done. I probably lost some train of thought in some places because this was a lot to be covering. But as in the days of Noah, and I believe that's what the Lord is saying. If you have any questions, please feel free. I don't argue with people. I'm going to put up, this is part 1. Part 2 is going to be me talking about my dream and explaining some of the things that God is showing me in the dream, my first dream and my second dream. So that will be part 2 of this. So listen to this and then go listen to that, because you'll have an understanding. Again, thank you for tuning in, and shalom. This is Electric Elohim's page. Prove all things, test all things, try all things in the spirit of the Lord and by the power of the word, because that is the way to go. And I pray, Lord, that you open up hearts and minds. Lord, that you keep mockers and scoffers and skeptics out of this page, and only have those that have the ears to hear and the heart to comprehend and the eyes to see, and a fine spirit of understanding and wisdom. Let them hear and let them decipher by your anointing. Thank you, Lord. Amen. Shalom.